Hey guys, this is Jeff Stanek with Figured Out Baseball. We've got a great Figured Out Baseball podcast for you today in our series that we call the Real Dirt Podcasts, where we spend the whole podcast getting our hands dirty into one particular topic, one particular subject, whereas in our standard longer podcasts, the free podcasts, we will jump around to a bunch of different topics. In this podcast today, this Real Dirt podcast, we're being joined by Danny Perez. He's the pitching coach at Hillsborough Community College, a junior college in Tampa, Florida, and we're going to be talking about maximizing our bullpens. So this is particularly for the pitcher and pitching coaches, and talking about bullpens in season as opposed to out of season, bullpens that would be leading up to the regular season. We're talking about during the season, how a starting pitcher can use his bullpen to get better, how a relief pitcher can use his bullpens to get better, and really the some of the focuses that players could have during those bullpens. And if you haven't checked out the Figured Out website in the past, I would encourage you to do that. In addition to this podcast, Coach Perez, for example, has a bunch of videos on the website that go through anything from pitching mechanics to the mental side of the game, which I think are two really cool subjects for that sort of crossover, certainly, and maybe that might be a podcast in the future. But for this podcast today, again, we're being joined by Danny Perez, and we'll be talking about maximizing your bullpen. So, Coach Perez, I sincerely appreciate you joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. I appreciate it.
So I kind of just want to start very general and then get a little more specific as we go. If we're talking about maximizing your bullpen, to me, the first place to start would be what your goals might be coming into a bullpen. So can you talk a little bit and give some examples of real actual goals and intentions that pitchers have? And one of the things I think we want to stay away from, and part of the reason for having this is what you don't want is just to go into a bullpen. You're going to throw a 25-pitch bullpen, and there's not much thought into it. You just kind of go in there and just go through the motions, and then you don't get a whole lot better. What we're trying to do is talk about how to get better. So can you give us some real-life examples of things that your pitchers might work on in a bullpen session during the season?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I think you hit it on the head that the first requirement is to have a goal going into the bullpen, and not just going through the motions like you said, because I don't think that translates into game. It doesn't translate into competition well. So we have a focus or a goal in mind for every single bullpen that we throw. I'll usually have a conversation with each pitcher about what they think they need to work on, and I'll give my input about what I think they need to get better at before we come up with that goal. But that goal is determined before the first pitch is thrown. But for me, regardless, always number one goal is always going to be fastball command. Fastball command is king. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know there, but for us, fastball command is the first priority, regardless of what else we're working on. So a lot of the times the way we set up our bullpens is kind of a location progression, if you will. So we'll start out with two fastballs to the glove side to kind of get them to reach out, and then two fastballs to their arm side, and then we'll go two fastballs elevated, and then we'll go on to our off-speed pitches after that. And when I say two to each spot, it's not hit or miss. It's you have to hit that spot twice in a row in order to move on to the next location. The way I think about it is that's really my way of reinforcing establishing the fastball, right? Because if we go into a game and you cannot establish your fastball and locate it to each side of the plate and elevate it on command, then you're probably not going to be in the game very long, and that's just the truth of the matter. You won't really have a chance to go to your off-speed pitches. So we force you to if you take up all 25 pitches working on fastball location, then so be it, because obviously that's how much time you needed to take to get that down. So it's almost earning the right to go to your off-speed pitches, and you do that by hitting each spot at least twice in a row. The way I look at it is, hey, if I hit fastball glove side twice in a row to start my bullpen, I already know I can put that pitch in my back pocket. I've got it. right? I've got that for the rest of my bullpen. In game, I've got that in my back pocket. I can go back to that whenever, right? Because I already know that I can get to that spot. So that's how we start all of our bullpens. After that, we'll start getting into whatever emphasis or focus we had agreed on after we've established the fastball command to all sides of the plate and up and down. So once we've done that, we move on to our goal for the day. And really, let's say you're a 3-pitch guy. It's not always going to be fastball, and then you go to breaking ball, and then you go to changeup, or other way around. It's going to be, once you establish the fastball, now we're going to go to what we really feel we need to work on the most. That's going to eat up the rest of our bullpen. Okay, so if that's landing your breaking ball for a strike, then that's what we're going to spend the rest of the bullpen on, or at least until we feel comfortable with it to move on to our third pitch. So we really want to make sure that after that fastball is established, we're spending the rest of the time on what we agreed is our main focus for the day. And usually that's an intent type thing. I try not to get too mechanical in season, but we will, if we see some small mechanical flaw that we think can be easily fixed with maybe one cue word or one trigger word, that can kind of remind them to reset and fix that, then we will have a mechanical goal in bullpen as well. As long as it's not something that's super, super complicated or very in-depth to where they're going to be overanalyzing their body.
I don't think that this is too far off topic, but I think it's worth talking about. You said just kind of at the beginning of that answer that you're not telling me anything I don't know as far as trying to establish fastball command. But to be honest, that kind of sounds contrary to what you hear a lot of times, even like in the big leagues. It's like now, I forget who wrote it. It was somebody that's one of the Major League Baseball guys who's like in the know type of thing, like a Carl Ravitch type or like Adam, somebody. I can't remember who it was, and it was, I don't know who it was, but it was something like they talked to a few GMs. Maybe you saw this tweet go around too, and the GMs were saying, like, we're not pitchers, we're just throwers, like, and it's leading to more injuries. But it just kind of seems like, generally speaking, that fastball command is not that big of a deal in the major leagues. Like, guys are just trying to throw as hard as they can with as much spin and as much movement as possible, and like fastball location is not that important except for the guys that are like older, like throwing 90 to 92 instead of 95 to 98 type of deal. So you still do work on, like, I mean, fastball command is still king for you in bullpens and just with all of your pitchers in general. Like, that's still your main number one focus with your guys.
Absolutely. Regardless of what other flaws or what other things that we feel we need to work on, criteria number one is locating your fastball to both sides of the plate, in my opinion. That's almost like the prerequisite course, right? Like you can't work on you don't get the right to take a 400 level class before you pass the 100 level class. Well, you got to earn the right to throw your off-speed pitches in the bullpen as well, in my opinion. And the way to do that is to prove to me that you can locate your fastball to each side of the plate and to elevate it whenever you want to as well. And I think too, at the major league level, there's a little bit more room for error when your fastball tops out at 98, 99, and it's spinning, at 2,600, and it's got that life to it. I'll be the first to admit that I think there is a little bit more room for error at that level, where you can miss your spot a little bit and get away with it because your stuff is just that good. So I think that's why velocity is important, and I think that's why when you have really, really good stuff, you can afford to miss your spot, a little bit more and still be successful. But at the high school, the college level, the guys that I work with, we have a lot of very talented arms with good stuff, but we're not major leaguers, and we still have to really, really, really focus on getting the fastball to each part of the plate on command. if we really want to be successful.
That's really great stuff. So, Danny, if I go into a bullpen with an intent of I need to work on my breaking ball, I wasn't really able to locate it, whether it's for a called strike or a swinging strike or whatever, and I've got to work on that. If it takes me, 8 to 10 pitches to locate my fastball enough that I can move on to my breaking ball, am I legitimately going to throw 15 straight breaking balls? Do you still like mixing a fastball to sort of like reset? Just kind of curious with that, because I know sometimes, and I'm not a pitching coach, nor do I pretend to be, but sometimes when a guy throws one pitch like too many times in a row, they might, lose a little bit of arm speed or just like, lose a little bit of something, and sometimes a good fastball can maybe reset some things for a guy. Does that happen at all? Or again, if it takes me 10 pitches to move past my fastball progression and get to the breaking ball, am I going to throw 15 straight potentially? Like you said, you kind of spend the rest of that bullpen working on what needs to be worked on.
No, it's definitely not. Yeah, it definitely won't be 15 straight. So basically what we'll do is we'll kind of follow that same progression with the breaking ball. So we'll go two breaking balls for strike, and then we'll go 2 breaking balls simulating an 0-2 count, right? So we're trying to reach out and get it to our glove side. And so obviously with lefties, that's a way to a lefty. With righties, that's a way to a righty. And we'll do 2 for a strike, 2 0-2 count breaking balls. And really, when we're in bullpen, instead of trying to make some mechanical change, I think the easiest thing to do is to adjust your sights, right? So I want you to throw the same exact pitch when you're throwing it first strike. I want you to throw the same exact breaking ball or slider when you're going 0-2, right? When you're looking for a swing and miss, you don't have to try harder. You don't have to change anything. All we're doing is changing where we started. So we're picking a point where we're starting that pitch, and we're letting the spin do the rest of the work. So once we've landed it twice for a strike, and we landed it twice for an out pitch, then we start getting into simulating a hitter, right? So now we may simulate 2 batters to complete your bullpen, and ideally we have somebody standing in. The way we set up our practices, we'll usually have a group of BP for specifically tracking pitches. So it works great for them. It works great for us. So once we've, located the fastball, we've located the breaking ball, now we can see how that works, with somebody standing in there. So now we might go, if I'm a righty, we might go fastball arm side to get up and in on the hands, and then we'll go back to that breaking ball off the plate. And I think that's where we really can kind of see, is it going to translate in your next outing? Because like you said, if I throw a breaking ball 15 times, yeah, I might start landing it eventually, but obviously I'm not going to have 15 chances to land it in a game. So, and like you said, the arm might slow down. I might just start spinning them just to get them over, and it might lose some sharpness. So once we've gone through our location progressions and we've earned the right to get a couple batters in there, that's when we're really starting to kind of focus in on, okay, hey, if I'm struggling to land my breaking ball, all right, let's pick a point. Let me throw it at the hitter's elbow and let it land for a strike. And then if I'm going to back it up, okay, let me get my side from my catcher, and now I'm going to start it at his mask and let it work off the plate. And I'll even ask in the middle of a bullpen, hey, whoever's in the box, hey, would you have swung at that? And if they tell me, yeah, honestly, I probably would have swung and started as a strike, okay, then we're good. That's instant feedback. We're good. We know that was a good out pitch, right? Or, nah, you know what, I'm probably taking that right out of the hand. Okay, then, hey, now I can tell my pitcher, now we got to start that ball a little bit farther over the plate because I need him to make a decision on every pitch, right? So I think when the hitter steps in, that's when we get most of our work done, right? That's when we're really, really seeing how each pitch is working in the zone, and what's going to have success when you get back out there in game and what's not. And that's why I think it's so important to have guys stand in for those bullpens, because it just makes it more game-like.
Danny, will you ever go to a bullpen with more than one goal, or do you think that bullpens in season are too short? Just say, for example, I had an outing and I really struggled with my breaking ball, but I also really struggled with my changeup. I didn't even feel like I had my changeup. I threw one or two and I scrapped it, but my breaking ball also wasn't very good, and I got hit around. Do I go to the next bullpen working on more than one thing, or is there just not enough pitches in a bullpen to have more than one goal?
I think that you can. We do sometimes have, hey, ideally, the goal is for you to get through each pitch, location progression to where you can throw all of your pitches in every bullpen. And that's more times than not, that's the case. We're throwing all of our pitches in our bullpens, and we're mixing them up in our sequences when we have the hitter in and when we're simulating hitters. Because if you don't have all three, then you're probably going to struggle. So yeah, we're not, we're never really skipping a pitch in a bullpen. But I will say this, we can have, I like to have a different emphasis on each day. So I may have I may mix in another short box before your next outing if you're a starter, where, it's a little bit less intent. It's not your full bullpen day, but you can still work on getting some feel for your off speed. And so maybe your big emphasis on your bullpen day was your breaking ball, but you want to get a little bit of extra work on your changeup the following day or the day before your bullpen. We throw changeups every day as well. We make changeups part of our catch play. So basically, when guys are working their way back in and they're pulling the ball down with their fastball, we do some shuffle changeups with every day that we're playing catch. Because I think that the changeup is such a field pitch. I personally, in my opinion, think it's easier to teach a breaking ball than it is to teach a changeup. Changeup is something that you really, really have to find the right grip, find what's comfortable for you, and really, really learn to trust it. So for me, I think it's something that you have to throw every day. And I like throwing it at 90 to 120 feet to where you can just really let it go and let the grip do the work. Whereas when you're throwing it up close, you may be a little bit more timid or you may not trust it as much. Well, now, if I can throw it at 90 or 120 feet, and I really start to feel it off my fingertips and it's feeling good, it's coming out good, now I can just keep that same arm action and keep that same feel and just start working in slowly to work in closer. So yeah, to answer your question, I think we can be working on more than one thing at a time in each bullpen, but I would say that you can use your days not on the mound to get feel for certain pitches that will allow you to focus on something else even more in your bullpen. But I mean, that being said, obviously you want to throw everything off the mound as well. And we try to get off the mound, as much as possible while we're regulating the effort levels to make sure that your arm is holding up.
Talk to me about different types of bullpens. You've mentioned a short box, and maybe you can explain that briefly to maybe anybody who doesn't know what that is. I only know what it is because I've seen, college pitching coaches do it. I don't think I knew what it was in high school. I don't know if I ever heard that term until I got to college, but there's a short box. There's obviously just full bullpens off the mound. Any other types of bullpens that your guys are throwing? And again, maybe you can shed a little light on what a short box looks like.
Yeah, so I honestly, I used to be a huge flat ground guy. I have not gotten away from it completely because we only have two mounds to work with. So, we have, 12 to 14 guys that are trying to get work in. So, so I have not gone away from flat grounds completely. But I will say something that I've learned over the course of the last, year or two is guys want to get off the mound as much as possible. But obviously, you and I both know that they can't throw bullpens every single off day or every single day in between their outings. So I think the short box is a great way to get them on the rubber, have them working down that slope, allow them to get feel for each pitch off of the mound. I think it translates a little bit better than flat ground. So basically, what we do is just have the catcher come up. Either squat on the plate or about a foot or two in front of the plate. And now you're throwing it about 50 feet as opposed to 60. A couple things it does for me, it helps regulate the effort level because if you're at 60 feet, 6 inches, it's tough to pull the reins back on a guy. They're going to want to let it eat. They're going to want to make that breaking ball as sharp as it can possibly be. And that's good because you want these guys to go out and compete, and you want that competitive nature in them. So you like that. But I think the short box, bringing the catcher up, is a good way to lower the effort level, really focus on getting feel for the pitch, right? And letting the breaking ball, making sure the breaking ball has true spin, or letting the changeup roll off the fingers nice and easy, and kind of feeling that, getting more comfortable with it, while you're not throwing it at 100%. And the other thing too, it does for me is it helps you get down in the zone, because if I can be down in the zone from 50 feet, then I know that I can be down in the zone at 60 feet 6 inches. So that's the biggest way for us to work on things when we are not trying to tax the arm too much. And it's and it's another way to get our guys off the mound as much as possible in between starts without wearing them out.
So that leads me to my next question about the effort level of bullpens. Is there, you've mentioned there are times when you're not going to go 100%. Are there times when your guys are throwing 100% effort? Do you want guys to throw with 100% effort as much as possible? Do you feel like there's a benefit to either or? Like, do you prefer bullpens at a little less than max effort for any particular guys? Again, maybe a reliever who might pitch or might pitch sooner or whatever. If I'm a first year pitching coach, let me phrase it this way: if I'm a high school head coach, and I've been a hitting coach my whole life, but now just because it's high school and you have lack of options, I'm going to be the pitching coach. How do I know what intent to ask my players for in a particular bullpen, and how often should I ask them to go basically at 100% effort level?
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, because I had this conversation with one of my pitchers this year. He was one of our starters, and he was a big, touch and feel guy, right? So most of his bullpens were 75%. It was a touch and feel, and this is how I'm working on things, and I kind of let him be, and he ended up having a lot of success this year. Me personally, I like to have at least half of the bullpen with 100% effort. So let's say when you're going through your pitch progressions, you're going through your location progressions, you might be at 75%. You're still getting your feel for all your pitches, but like the way we set up our bullpens, by the time you're simulating those two hitters at the end of your bullpen, and you got a guy standing in there, I want to see you let it go. And I think there's that sliding scale where, hey, you might, if you're going to throw 40 pitches in the pen today, then it better not be at more than 75%. But if we're going to go, 20 to 25 pitches, then you can kind of up the intensity a little bit. So I think there's a little bit of a sliding scale between number of pitches and the intent of those pitches. But I would like to see at least 10 to 12, ideally 15 pitches where you're really letting it go, and we're seeing how each pitch is going to work with a batter in the box at full intensity, because that, at the end of the day, in my opinion, is what's going to transfer into the game. So it's kind of finding a balance between making sure that you have enough intensity to make sure it's going to translate, but also not taxing the arm too much. And I think the short box helps a lot, where, hey, if I want to work on some stuff and not go 100%, okay, then maybe this is a good short box day for you. But when your arm's ready to go full bullpen, all right, then you should be ready to let it eat a little bit,
Maybe a short answer for this one, as we're down to our last few minutes, but I definitely want to ask this is the benefit of throwing a flat ground that you just have a little less stress on the arm because you're not throwing downhill, or is there another benefit to throwing a flat ground?
I think the other benefit to throwing a flat ground is, let's say if you're leaving all your pitches up, your pitches aren't quite as sharp, it's going to make you work that much harder to reach out and work down in the zone. Obviously the mound is going to help you. The slope of the mound is going to help you work downhill and get down in the zone. So if you're struggling to do that, then you get on a flat ground. Now your body has to work that much harder to reach out and finish to knee. And if you can do that in flat ground, which is obviously going to be a little bit tougher, but if you can do it in flat ground, then you should be able to do that with that slope and working down the mountain. So.
Last question I'm going to ask you, Coach Perez, is just about most of the conversation so far has been about intent on the mound during your bullpens and kind of fixing up something that hasn't been working. You touched really briefly on it, but I want to just ask you a little more pointedly about making physical adjustments in the season or during the season. Are you ever spending your time, just say you have a 25-pitch bullpen, and you kind of said we're going to work on whatever you're struggling with? If the struggle was something mechanical that's happening that you want to try to correct, or like maybe something has been going fine, but then just one outing, like, hey, this was kind of happening. I saw this happening to your mechanics in this game. I haven't seen that to this point, but I saw it last game. Let's work on that to make sure we can get you back where you were, make sure we don't lose it and it goes the other direction. Will you spend bullpens where the intent, the whole focus is on the physical adjustment? Because as a hitting coach, to me, you've either got, if you're going to focus on mechanics, you don't necessarily want to spend your practice time hitting off a machine that's throwing 92, because then all your focus has to be on hitting 92 and trying to square it up. Like if you're going to work on a physical adjustment or something mechanical, you probably want to be off of a tee or front toss where you can focus more on your body and something that's happening something that's happening mechanically, as opposed to again having to focus on hitting a 92 mile per hour moving pitch. How is it with pitchers? Will you work on mechanical adjustments in season? Can that be the focus of a bullpen where it doesn't necessarily, it's not as important as much of like commanding the ball? Because I imagine you can't focus on commanding and mechanics. It's got to be like one or the other. Am I right, or is that something that's a little different with pitching and hitting?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think for me, it depends on how major the mechanical tweaking is. For instance, like we recruit arm action, right? If I really like your arm action, then I'm really probably not going to mess with that when you get to HCC. Something like arm action. If I just told you to go pick up a ball and throw it, however you naturally, without any instruction, picked up that ball and threw it, that's probably your natural arm action. So I'm not going to mess with something like that. When we have guys, they've been doing that, they've been throwing a baseball like that for, 16 years, however long it is. And that is obviously what got them to this point, and that's what feels natural for them. In the middle of a season, I'm probably not going to mess with that arm action. I think that's something that takes so much repetition and so much muscle memory that's going to take a long time before a change in arm action feels comfortable. So I'll wait until the off season for something that major, because I don't want you, thinking about that when you're in a game. For me, those major changes have to wait till the off season, because when the way we think about it, on game day, we don't talk about mechanics. You're not going to get better on game day. You got to go out with what you have, and you got to go compete and get outs. So minor tweaking, in between starts or in between outings, I like. It's just got to be something where I can give you one cue or one trigger word that will help you to reset. Maybe it's your front side, or maybe it's staying back over the rubber a little bit longer. Something that you can say, okay, yeah, that's a quick cue. I can do that. I can fix that pretty easy, and that'll be it. I try to keep it as simple as possible in season, because I know within a matter of days you got to go back out and you got to compete and get outs. And the other thing I was going to tell you is that we also have, like, I always set a day specifically for dry work. Usually it's the day or the second day after a starter's outing, right? Or if we just burned a bullpen arm because he had an extended outing in the bullpen, and he's not going to throw the following day or the day after that, that's a great time for me to say, okay, well, you've got at least 3 or 4 days till your next outing. This is a dry work day, right? So we're going to get the sock, or we're going to get the towel, and some people don't like towel drills nowadays, but I still think there's something that you can get out of it to where, let me get that repetition, that muscle memory of whatever mechanical cue I need to work on without taxing my arm too much.
Like that a lot. This is Daniel Perez, everybody. He's the pitching coach at Hillsborough Community College, junior college in Tampa, Florida. We've been talking about maximizing your bullpens. If you have any other questions for us, you can always reach out to either Figured Out Baseball. You can get us on any of the social media platforms. You can also email us at info@figuredoutbaseball.com. And if you want to get in touch with Coach Perez, we can certainly put you in touch if you have any specific questions. And again, I hope you'll check out Danny Perez's videos on the Figured Out Baseball website. He's got a ton of stuff for you there. A lot of it's free. There is some in the premium section, and hopefully more to come. Coach Perez, this has been great. I've really appreciated it and very much enjoyed it, and I've learned a couple things from you in this podcast, so I really appreciate your time today.
I appreciate you having me on here, and I appreciate everything you do. The website's awesome. It's really, really a good thing, putting as much information as you're putting out there, so I'm really happy that I can be a part of it.